On our first wedding night, my husband said, "I'm tired." Just that. I'm tired. He turned his back to me, the chasm in the king-sized bed of our opulent bridal suite feeling as wide and as cold as an ocean. I lay there, my heart a leaden stone in my chest, the silk and lace of my $10,000 gown feeling like a shroud. My name is Amara, and at 33 years old, I was supposed to be the happiest woman in the world. I was a data scientist, a woman who built her life on logic, on patterns, on predictable outcomes. And I had just married Marcus, a man whose charm and ambition had swept me off my feet. Before we begin, if you believe in the power of a person to reclaim their life from the absolute brink, then please subscribe to this channel. Your support means everything. Hit that subscribe button, and let's get into this. The wedding had been a spectacular affair, hosted at the sprawling, isolated estate of his mother, Genevieve. It was her home, a place of old money, dark woods, and suffocating silence. Marcus had insisted we stay here for the first few nights before our honeymoon, to be with family. Now, his rejection on this, of all nights, felt like a deliberate, chilling snub. I told myself I was overthinking it. He was stressed. The wedding was huge. I was a logical woman. I should be logical. But logic has no defense against a wound. I lay awake for hours, my mind racing, every tick of the antique grandfather clock in the hall outside our door amplifying my humiliation. At midnight, I gave up on sleep. My throat was dry. I slipped out of the cold bed, my bare feet padding silently on the plush carpet. The old house was dark, the hallways like tunnels. I made my way downstairs toward the kitchen, guided by a sliver of moonlight. As I passed the closed door of my mother-in-law's suite, I froze. I heard a sound. A low, rhythmic creak of the bedsprings. And then, a moan. A woman's moan, deep and unrestrained. My first thought was a flash of pity. Genevieve was a widow. Perhaps she had a secret lover. Good for her. I tried to move on, to not be an intruder. But then I heard a man's voice. A low, urgent murmur. More, just like that, Genevieve. My blood turned to ice. I knew that voice. I knew it as well as I knew my own. It was Marcus. My husband. My mind refused to compute. It was impossible. A sick, auditory hallucination. I must have misheard. I crept closer, pressing my ear against the thick, carved wood of the door. I heard moans coming from my mother-in-law's room. And my husband was in there with her. The hook was not just a hook, it was a harpoon. It ripped through every last shred of decency and hope I had. I saw it all in a flash of sickening clarity, the way she, Genevieve, had always touched his arm a little too long, the way he, Marcus, would look at her with an intensity that I had mistaken for filial devotion. I wanted to be sick. I wanted to scream. I wanted to break down the door and what? The blueprint protagonist does not crumble. My shock, my horror, my searing, soul-crushing disgust, it all crystallized, in a split second, into something else. It became data. This was not a betrayal. It was an anomaly. An outcome so far outside the bounds of normal human behavior that it had to be analyzed. Why? Why would they do this? Why would they go through the trouble of this elaborate wedding? Why marry me? The answer, as always, was in the data. Money. My mind flashed back. I wasn't just a data scientist. I was the sole inheritor of my father's multi-million-dollar logistics company, Vance Transport Solutions. I, with my analytical mind, had been running it. And for the last 6 months, Marcus, with his smooth MBA, had been helping me. He had modernized my systems. He had streamlined my accounts. He had optimized my shipping routes. And I, blinded by love, had given him access to everything. I backed away from the door, a ghost in a house of horrors. I did not return to the bridal suite. I found a small, unused guest room at the far end of the estate, locked the door, and opened my laptop. My counterattack was silent. It was digital. I tried to log into my own company's server. Access denied. My credentials, the ones I had used every day for a decade, were invalid. Access denied. He hadn't just married me. He had already locked me out. The wedding, the I'm tired, the abomination down the hall, it was all a coordinated strike. My heart hammered, not with fear, but with a cold, clear, calculating fury. He had locked me out of the front end. But my father and I had built this system. And I knew all the back doors. I opened a command prompt. My fingers flew, typing lines of code, bypassing the slick, new user interface Marcus had built and digging straight into the server's root. And there it was. The hidden secret suspense began to unravel. It wasn't just that he had locked me out. He had created a ghost in my machine. A new, high-level administrative account, under a false name, with full clearance. And he had been busy. For the last 3 months, my company, my father's legacy, had been moving containers that didn't exist in my manifests. Dozens of them. Off-book, untraceable, shipped to and from ports in Asia and Eastern Europe. The modernization wasn't for efficiency. It was to hide his operation. He wasn't just stealing from me. He was using my company, my good name, my father's clean legacy, as a front for a massive, international smuggling operation. And his partner, his accomplice, was his mother. I sank onto the small, hard bed, my mind finally grasping the full, monster scope of it. The wedding wasn't just a distraction, it was a merger. He needed my name, my signature, and my legal standing as his wife to finalize his control of the assets. His rejection of me on our wedding night wasn't just cruelty, it was a business decision. He was already celebrating with his real partner. They had underestimated me. They saw a quiet, nerdy, grieving daughter who was bad with business and lucky to have him. They had no idea they had just declared war on a data analyst who sees every pattern, every anomaly, and every trace they thought they had hidden. I needed an ally. Not a lawyer, not yet. I needed someone on the inside. Someone who was loyal to my father. I picked up my phone. I dialed a number I knew by heart. The number for the head of operations at Vance Transport, a grizzled, old-school logistics veteran named Elias Pops Washington. He had been my father's right-hand man for 30 years. He despised Marcus. "Pops," I whispered, my voice thick. "It's Amara." "Amara?" "Child, it's 2 in the morning. Shouldn't you be, well, you know?" "Pops, I'm at the estate. And I'm locked out of the system." "My system." There was a dead silence on the other end of the line. "I knew it," he finally growled. "That slick pretty boy. I've been seeing it for months. Ghost containers, Amara. Phantom manifests. Routes that make no sense. I've been running my own ledger, old school. Pen and paper. I've got a list of every container he's moved." "He's smuggling, Pops," I whispered. "And I think his mother is in on it. They're partners." "Partners," Pop spat, the word an insult. "Worse than that. They're vultures. And they're trying to steal your father's house." "I need you to do something for me," I said, my voice hardening, the last of the weeping bride evaporating. "I need you to get into the main server room. I need you to pull the physical hard drives. All of them. The ones from before Marcus's upgrade. I need the originals. And I need you to find the real bill of lading for container 774B. The one Marcus has listed as textile machinery bound for Rotterdam." "I'm already on my way," Pop said. "What are you going to do?" I looked at the locked door of my room, my mind already building a new fortress. "I'm going to play the part of the happy, loving, naive new bride," I said. "I'm going to stay in this house. I'm going to investigate. And then, I'm going to burn their entire world to the ground." The sun rose. I hadn't slept. I had sat in the cold, unfamiliar guest room, my laptop screen illuminating my face, my mind a fortress of cold, analytical rage. I had mapped their entire smuggling operation. I saw the ghost containers, the falsified shipping routes, the millions of dollars being laundered through my father's company. Pops had been my eyes and ears, and in the space of 3 hours, he had confirmed my worst fears. They're not just smuggling, Amara, he had whispered over the secure line. They're selling your manifests. They're letting other criminal organizations use your company's clean record to move their own illicit goods. Your father's name is now the gold standard for high-end smugglers. And Container 774B? The one listed as textile machinery? It's a ghost, just like you thought. The money trail leads to a shell corp run by Genevieve. I finally closed the laptop. The data was damning. Now, I needed the physical proof. I splashed cold water on my face, erased the terror and sleeplessness, and composed my expression into one of a slightly confused, deeply loving, and forgiving bride. My counterattack, the stay and investigate phase, was the most dangerous performance of my life. I slipped back into our bridal suite. Marcus was still asleep, his arm flung over the empty space where I should have been. I quietly climbed into the bed. An hour later, he stirred. He rolled over, and his eyes opened. He saw me, and a look of pure, animalistic panic flashed across his face, just for a millisecond. It was the look of a man who had forgotten, for a moment, which lie he was supposed to be telling. Amara, he said, his voice thick. Good morning, my husband, I whispered, forcing a shy smile. He immediately relaxed, his charm sliding back into place like a mask. Oh, baby, I'm so sorry about last night. The stress, the wedding. I was just exhausted. I passed out. It's okay, I said, playing my part. We have our whole lives. I was just so happy to be here with you. And I'm happy to be with you, he said, kissing me. It was like being kissed by a snake. My skin crawled, but I leaned into it. Now, let's go down. I'll bet my mother is making her famous breakfast. You have to try her waffles. I knew what he was doing. He was handling me. He was normalizing, gaslighting, and reinforcing the idea of family. He, and his mother. Breakfast was a masterpiece of psychological horror. Genevieve was radiant, the lady of the manor, bustling in a silk robe. There she is, she trilled, gliding over to hug me. Our beautiful bride. Did you sleep well, dear? Her skin was cold. I could smell Marcus's cologne on her. I had to physically stop myself from gagging. Like a dream, I lied, smiling. Marcus was so tired, he fell right asleep. The poor thing was exhausted. Genevieve and Marcus exchanged a look. A flicker of something. Relief? Amusement? They thought I was a fool. They thought I had bought their lie. Well, you must rest, dear, Genevieve said, patting my hand. A wedding is so draining. Marcus and I have to go into the city today, a little family business to attend to at the office. My office. My company. Of course, I said. You two go. I'll just explore the estate. It's so beautiful here. A wonderful idea. Marcus said, kissing me goodbye. We'll be back this evening. Don't you worry about a thing. They left. The moment their car disappeared down the long, winding drive, the smiling, naive bride vanished. Dr. Amara Vance, data analyst and CEO, took her place. The house was my new data set. They were arrogant. They believed I was a doting, naive fool. They would be sloppy. Pop's research had shown that money was being laundered, but the scale of it suggested something more. They weren't just moving ghost containers, they were moving product. But what? And where was it? I am a data scientist. I look for anomalies. I look for patterns that are broken. I started with the house blueprints, which Marcus had proudly shown me when he was trying to impress me. I had a photographic memory. I cross-referenced the digital plans with the physical layout of the 10,000 square foot estate. The anomaly was in the basement. The blueprints showed a massive, sprawling, 3,000 square foot wine cellar, a relic from the 1920s, running the full length of the west wing. But when I went to the basement, the door marked wine cellar opened into a small, dusty room, barely 20 by 20, holding a few racks of cheap Cabernet. The rest, the other 2,800 square feet, was gone. Hidden behind a newly built, seamless brick wall. My heart hammered. This was it. I ran to the main floor library, directly above the cellar. I paced it out. The room was massive. In the far corner, hidden by a heavy tapestry, was an old, wrought iron spiral staircase, roped off. A sign on it read, "Unsafe. Do not use." I ignored it. This was the original cellar entrance. I descended, my phone's flashlight cutting through the gloom. At the bottom was a small landing, and another new wall. But this one had been built in haste. I pushed. It didn't budge. But I saw the hinges. It wasn't a wall. It was a door, a massive, reinforced door, bricked over and plastered to look like the foundation. And on the side, disguised as an electrical panel, was a high-tech biometric keypad. A fingerprint scanner. They wouldn't be so stupid, would they? I tried Marcus's thumbprint. Nothing. I tried Genevieve's. Nothing. Of course not. They were smarter than that. But I am a data analyst. And I am a wife. I know my husband. He is arrogant. He is sentimental, but only about himself. And he is lazy. His password for everything, his laptop, his bank account, his phone, was his birthday. 0-8-1-6. I typed it in. The keypad flashed red. Invalid. I tried Genevieve's. 0-4-2-9. Invalid. I stood back, frustrated. I thought about the way they were, the unholy alliance. It wasn't just a partnership. It was, them. Against the world. What was the one date that bound them? I thought back to the family photos lining the hall. Old, black and white pictures. Genevieve as a young woman, holding a baby, Marcus. And a stir-looking older man. Marcus's father. Who had died, when? I ran back upstairs. I found the portrait. The plaque beneath it. Joseph Vance. 1945 to 1999. When had he died? I pulled out my phone. A quick search. His obituary. He had died. On this day. October 27th. This wasn't just an estate. It was a mausoleum. But that was too complex. What if? I went back to the keypad. It wasn't just them. It was me. The wedding. The merger. When had they started this? When had they locked me in? Our wedding date. Just yesterday. 1-0-2-6. Access granted. A heavy, pneumatic hiss echoed in the small space. The brick-covered door swung open, revealing a vast, dark, climate-controlled space. It was not a wine cellar. It was a vault. And it was filled, wall to wall, with priceless, stolen art. I saw it all. Renaissance canvases I recognized from art history books. Roman statues. Gold-leafed religious icons. Crates stamped with the names of museums in Baghdad, in Florence, in Cairo. This wasn't smuggling. This was the systematic looting of the world's cultural heritage. Genevieve's old money wasn't from her ancestors. It was from this. She was a high-end fence, a modern-day art thief, and she had been doing this for decades. My father's company, my modern logistics firm, was just her new, high-tech, clean way to move her product. And Marcus? Marcus was her heir, her partner in crime. The wedding, I realized, was the final step. By marrying me, They gained control of the clean shipping company, allowing them to launder not just the money, but the art itself, shipping it to private collectors listed as manufacturing clients. I had to get out. I had to call Pops. I had to call the police. I turned to leave, and the light from my phone flashed on something in the corner. A small, metal desk. And on it, a ledger. An old, leather-bound book. But next to it, was a new, sleek, modern laptop. It was open. I walked over, my feet numb. The screensaver was a picture of Marcus and Genevieve, clinking champagne glasses. I touched the mouse. The screen flared to life. It was their entire operation. Lists of buyers. Invoices. Bank accounts in Switzerland and the Caymans. And an email open on the screen. From M. Vance. To G. Vance. Subject, the final piece. Mother. The merger is complete. The wedding went perfectly. Amara is exactly the naive fool we thought she was. She bought the tired act. She's upstairs, probably crying in her pillow. I'll be down in a few. The appraiser for the new batch is confirmed. He arrives on Friday. Once he verifies the collection, the wire transfer will be initiated. By the time she realizes what's happening, we'll be gone, the vault will be empty, and her company will be nothing but a bankrupt shell, holding the bag for our entire operation. Your loving son, M. Friday. That was in 3 days. That was the legacy. They were going to steal my money, my company, and my name, leaving me to take the fall for their crimes. I pulled out my phone. I took pictures of everything. The art. The ledger. The laptop screen. I sent it all in an encrypted file to Pops. The subject, Container 774B. The message, I found the textile machinery. Get me the FBI. Get me Interpol. We have 3 days. I did not sleep for 3 days. I returned to the bridal suite, a ghost in my own wedding gown, and climbed back into the cold bed. I erased my digital footprints from the guest room, locked the vault, the code, 10 to 26, our wedding date, feeling like a sick joke, and deleted the Container 774B email from my sent folder. When Marcus and Genevieve returned that evening, flush with the success of their day at my office, I was exactly where they expected me to be, in bed, my face tear-stained, the picture of a heartbroken, confused bride. Oh, Amara, dear, Genevieve cooed, sitting on the edge of the bed, her touch reptilian. Are you still upset about last night? Marcus was just tired, weren't you, darling? So tired, he said, not even looking at me, already unbuttoning his shirt. I'm sorry, Amara. We'll have plenty of time for all that on the honeymoon. Right now, we just have to get through this last bit of business. I played my part. For the next 72 hours, I was the perfect, fragile doll. I sat at the dinner table with them, my stomach churning, forcing myself to eat, to smile, to nod. I listened to them discuss their plans, their business, in coded language, all while I was dying inside. They were so arrogant, so secure in their belief of my stupidity, that they didn't even bother to hide their conspiratorial glances. They thought I was a solved equation. Meanwhile, my phone, clutched in my hand under the dinner table, was a silent beacon. Pops was my lifeline. Pops, 10:32 p.m. The feds are in. They can't believe the data. Interpol is flagging the appraiser. He's a big fish, Amara. A very big, very dangerous fish. Me, 10:33 p.m. They are at the dinner table with me. They are discussing the weather. Pops, 10:34 p.m. Stay strong, child. Friday. It all ends Friday. We'll be in position. Friday finally arrived. It was the day of the final piece. The day the appraiser, Mr. Dubois, was set to arrive. The day the wire transfer would be initiated. The day they would dispose of me. Genevieve was practically vibrating with a predatory joy. Amara, dear, she said at breakfast. Such a big day. We have one last piece of business to sign, and then we are all free. Business? I asked, feigning confusion. Yes, Marcus said, his smile slick. The final piece of the merger. We're leveraging a private family collection to secure the company's future. But since you are the CEO of Vance Transport, we need your signature on the final bill of lading to transfer the assets to our new partner. This was it. The trap. Oh, I said, my voice trembling. Of course, Marcus. Whatever you need. At 3 p.m., a black town car crunched up the gravel driveway. A cold, severe-looking man in an impeccably tailored suit emerged. Mr. Dubois. The appraiser. He was all business, disappearing with Genevieve into the library. An hour later, Marcus came to my room. It's time, baby. He led me down to the library. Genevieve and Dubois were waiting. Amara, darling, Genevieve said. So glad you could join us. We're just going to pop down to the cellar to finalize the paperwork. She led us to the tapestry, to the spiral staircase, to the biometric keypad. The code is our special date, dear, she said, her voice cloying. Our wedding day. 10 to 26, she typed it in. Access granted. The heavy, brick-covered door hissed open. Mr. Dubois was a professional. He had been in the vault for an hour, but his face showed no emotion. He simply stood by the metal desk, a small, leather-bound ledger in his hand. The laptop was open. Amara, Marcus said, handing me a digital tablet and a stylus. This is just the bill of lading for the transfer. Standard procedure. Just sign right there. I looked at the screen. It was a standard Vance Transport Solutions shipping manifest. 1 crate, antique textile machinery. Destination, Rotterdam. Client, Dubois Holdings. I looked at the tablet. I looked at the priceless, looted Caravaggio hanging on the wall 10 feet away. I looked at the smug, expectant face of my husband. I looked at the cold, reptilian gaze of his mother. No, I said. The silence in the vault was absolute. What did you say? Marcus's smile froze, then flickered. Amara, don't be difficult. Just sign the paper. I said, no, I repeated, my voice clear and cold, echoing off the stone walls. It's not textile machinery. It's The Storm on the Sea of Galilee by Rembrandt, stolen from the Isabella Stewart Gardner Museum in 1990. And that, I pointed, is Nativity with St. Francis and St. Lawrence by Caravaggio, stolen from Palermo. And that, I pointed to a row of icons, is a collection of 12th-century Kievan Rus masterpieces, looted from the St. Sophia Cathedral during the war. Their faces. It was a beautiful, terrible thing to watch. Dubois's professional calm shattered, his eyes widening in pure horror. Genevieve's mask of the gracious matriarch melted, revealing the vicious, cornered animal beneath. And Marcus, my husband, just looked at me, his mouth open, as if I had just sprouted wings. You knew, he whispered. I'm a data scientist, Marcus. I see patterns, I said. For instance, my voice dropped, and I looked directly at Genevieve. I see the pattern of moans coming from my mother-in-law's room on my wedding night. I must say, the data on that was anomalous. That was the blow. Dubois looked from Marcus to Genevieve, his expression one of pure, unadulterated disgust. He had been in business with degenerates. You bitch! Genevieve shrieked, the sound inhuman. She lunged, her hands clawed, not at me, but at the laptop, trying to destroy the evidence. I wouldn't, I said. I tapped my phone, which was in my hand. Instantly, the heavy, pneumatic vault door, which I had remotely tied into my own program 2 days ago, hissed and slammed shut. A heavy, magnetic thud echoed through the room. We were sealed in. What is this? Dubois roared, pulling at the door. What have you done? It's a security protocol, I said, to protect the assets. And you are all now, officially, liabilities. Amara, let us out. Marcus begged, finally understanding. Please, Amara, I can explain. It was her. It was all her idea. Save it, I said. I looked at the laptop, still open to the email. You were right, Marcus, I said, my voice filled with a cold, hollow sadness. The merger is complete. I am a naive fool. I never should have trusted you. Then let us go, he pleaded. No, I said. You see, you thought my father's company was the prize. But you were wrong. My father's legacy was the prize. And you corrupted it. On the wall opposite the door, a flat-screen monitor, previously dark, flickered to life. It showed the library, just outside the vault. The door of the library burst open. Pops. And behind him, a dozen FBI agents in tactical gear, weapons drawn. Behind them, two men in sharp suits from Interpol. We are all in here, Pops, I said, my voice projected by a small microphone I had placed in the vault earlier. Marcus Vance, Genevieve Vance, and their buyer, Mr. Dubois. We are all here. With the art. And the laptop. I looked at the terrified, trapped faces of my family. The appraiser is here, Marcus, I said. The transfer is happening. Just not the way you planned. I typed in the code. The vault door hissed open. I stood back as the FBI stormed in. FBI. Hands in the air. Hands in the air, now. It was over. They were caught red-handed, in a sealed room, with billions in stolen art, the laptop, the manifests, and their international buyer. It was a perfect, airtight, beautifully gift-wrapped case. Genevieve screamed. Marcus collapsed, sobbing. Dubois, the professional, just put his hands on his head and sank to his knees, his face a mask of cold fury. He had been taken down by a naive fool. Marcus was the last one let out. He stopped in front of me, his face a ruin of tears and snot. Amara, why? I looked at him, the man who had stolen my love, my company, and my wedding night. Because I'm a data scientist, Marcus. And I don't like anomalies. The Vance art smuggling ring was the biggest international art crime story of the decade. The incestuous relationship between Marcus and Genevieve was the salacious headline, but the real story was the recovery of the stolen art. They were both found guilty, along with Dubois, and received multiple, consecutive life sentences. Their entire, rotten legacy was erased. But my legacy was just beginning. Vance Transport Solutions, my father's company, was implicated. But I, as the key witness and whistleblower, was given the chance to save it. I didn't just save it. I transformed it. I liquidated the entire Vance estate, the house of horrors, the cars, the blood money accounts. I used that capital to create a new, non-profit division of my company, the Vance Legacy Restoration Project. Its sole purpose? To use my company's global logistics network, for free, to help governments, museums, and private foundations track, recover, and repatriate stolen cultural artifacts from around the world. My transformation was complete. I turned the company my husband had corrupted into a tool for international theft into a global force for restoration. My father's legacy wasn't just clean again, it was stronger than ever. I found my peace, not in a marriage, but in my mission. My data analysis, once used to predict shipping routes, now predicts where stolen history will surface next. They tried to make me the wife of a criminal. Instead, I became the world's most effective cultural detective. What this story teaches us is that you should never, ever, underestimate the quiet ones. The ones who watch, the ones who listen, the ones who analyze the data. They see the patterns everyone else misses. And when they finally make their move, the results are predictable. If you believe in the power of truth, hit that like button. And if you believe that a legacy is something you build, not something you steal, subscribe to this channel. We'll see you in the next story.